If you're anxious at work and you can't figure out why, I am going to tell you something that nobody else is telling you. The primary cause of your anxiety might not be your boss, your workload, or even your job. It's coming from somewhere you would never expect. And once you understand where, everything changes. Anxiety is a survival emotion. On its own, it is not bad. It's your nervous system doing its job. It's just trying to keep you alive. But when you're anxious every single day, it starts having a detrimental effect on your hormones, on your perspective, and most importantly, on your life. Now, here is something that most people never consider. Anxiety is either genetic or it was learned. And if it was learned, there is an original date that it started, an origin story, something that taught your nervous system to stay on guard. That is the cause. And in today's world, when you take the pill, you're treating the symptom. There's nothing wrong with momentary relief, but you will never get to the core of it that way. You have to treat the cause. And this is where awareness comes in. Awareness is the first key to change. You cannot change what you cannot see. And I'm about to show you something that most people have never seen or considered. But before we get there, I need to ask you something. Are you identified with anxiety? Do you say that I suffer from anxiety, or I have anxiety, or maybe I have panic attacks? Because this matters more than anything else that I'm going to say. Now, before I go any further, I want to be clear. I'm not a doctor or psychologist. If you've been clinically diagnosed, I respect that completely. And I'm not here to override your treatment. What I'm talking about today is the people that absorbed an anxiety identity without ever being formally diagnosed. And there are a lot more of them than you think. Now, some of you watching this don't identify with anxiety at all. This next part is still for you. But for those of you who do identify with anxiety, pay close attention, because here's what identities do that nobody else is talking about. An identity is a label that you give yourself, a belief that you hold with certainty. You have body identities. You have learned identities. I'm good at this. I'm not good at that. And then you have emotional identities. These are the ones that will run or even ruin your life if you let them, such as I have a bad temper, I'm not good in social situations, I suffer from anxiety. Here's the question I always ask. Who diagnosed you? Did you get a second opinion, a third opinion, or did you just absorb that description of yourself one day and never question it? Because if you want to fight for your limitation, you get to keep it. Every identity wants to live. Every identity wants to be substantiated. Ask yourself, are you identifying with a survival emotion right now or an abundance emotion right now? Survival identities don't make you feel safe. They feel familiar, and familiar gets mistaken for safe. That is the trap. They can bring you certainty, they can bring you connection, they can fulfill basic human needs. That is why they are so hard to let go of. But when you're living in a survival identity, you are changing the hormones in your bloodstream. You are changing your perspective. You are not safe, you just think you are. Abundance identities are where you actually feel safe. This is where you want to live. All identities want to live. All identities want to be substantiated. The anxiety identity goes looking for evidence and it finds it everywhere. Because here's what happens when you're identified with anxiety. Work isn't causing your anxiety. It's just stimulating something that you've already accepted as part of you. The job is just triggering the identity that wants to be seen. And that's where it gets dangerous, because now you can stack triggers. You already carry the identity that says, I have anxiety. On top of that, you walk into a world that is running collective anxiety like a current through every nervous system on the planet. You are triggered inside of a triggered planet. That's where people get buried. Right now, there's collective anxiety running through this planet that most people have no idea they're swimming in. We are a species, and just because we're not verbally connected does not mean that we're not connected. You've probably seen the video where somebody lines up dozens of metronomes, all ticking at different rhythms, and within a few minutes, every single one of them synchronizes. No one told them to do that. It just happens. Scientists call the same phenomena in birds murmuration. Thousands of starlings moving as if they're one thing with no one leader. Hard math researchers have documented the same thing in humans. Your nervous system is literally affecting and being affected by the people around you, whether you know it or not. Think about the fish in the ocean. Think about the herd of gazelles in Africa. The moment one of them senses danger, the whole group feels it instantly. Nobody sent them a memo. Nobody made a phone call. It just moves through them. That is us, and that is you. Right now on the planet, there's more collective anxiety, more collective anger, more collective fear than most of us have ever experienced in our lifetimes. And you are absorbing it whether you know it or not. When you walk into work already carrying that current in your nervous system, before your boss says a word, before you open an email, you are already primed for anxiety. You didn't generate it. You caught it, and that distinction changes everything. I have someone in my life who calls me regularly with workplace problems. First, it was the boss, then the next job, then it was the next boss. Then they got let go because they didn't fit in. Now they're in a new job and they're already finding problems at their new job. The only thing that was consistent, the same in every single situation, was them. At some point, you have to stop and ask yourself, when do I stop pointing at them and start looking at me? Because if you're carrying collective anxiety in your nervous system and you've already built an identity around being an anxious person, you will find evidence for that identity everywhere you go. Every job, every boss, every workplace. The anxiety isn't at work. The anxiety is in you, and you brought it with you. So if anxiety is contagious, the question becomes, what is the vaccination? Here are 7 things that will help keep you healthy. The first vaccination is consciousness. Simply becoming aware that this is happening is the beginning of everything. Awareness is the first step to change. When you know that collective anxiety is contagious and that you are susceptible to it, you stop being a passive receiver and you start having a strategy. With consciousness comes capabilities. You cannot change what you cannot see. The second vaccination is give yourself an identity upgrade. You have the ability to change the way you think and change your identities. Instead of saying, I suffer from anxiety, try saying, I am an emotional master. Or I love the unknown, or I am someone who turns pressure into power. You are not locked into the identities that you inherited. You can choose a better one. And remember, if you want to fight for your limitation, you get to keep it. The third vaccination is lighten your load. Every single thing on your plate that does not need to be there is an energy drain. And every energy drain makes you more triggerable. On a planet where people are collectively running fear, you cannot afford to carry unnecessary weight. Minimize. Delegate. Let go of what is not yours to carry. The fourth vaccination is feel to release. Emotion is energy in motion. You cannot think your way out of stored anxiety. You have to feel it to release it. Backed up resentments, stored triggers, unprocessed fear, all of it keeps you in a survival mode. When you learn how to feel an emotion fully and you let it move through you, you stop carrying it. And that is how you get out of survival. The fifth vaccination is find your tribe. Remember the metronomes. Remember the starlings. When you surround yourself with emotionally healthy people, you absorb their frequency. Just like you absorb collective anxiety, it works both ways. Find inclusionary groups, groups that accept anyone and create unity. All the polarization on the planet Earth is what makes us feel so unsafe. Divided groups create sides, and sides creates threat. But in a unified group, there is connection, and in connection, there is safety. That is the opposite of anxiety. Go to your gym. Find a meditation group, find a book club, find your tribe. The sixth vaccination is control your focus. Every single day, make a conscious decision to focus on everything that you have that is positive. What you are doing when you're doing this is overriding the reptilian brain, the survival brain, and redirecting it towards everything that is actually good in your life. In a world full of doom-scrolling human beings and negative news feeds, you do not have to participate. You are alive. You are here, and that is extraordinary. Keep your eyes on that. The seventh vaccination is give to give. Not because you want something back, not because it will make you feel good. Give when you don't feel like it. That is unselfish giving. That is when you step completely outside of yourself, and here's what happens. You will feel better. They will feel better, and it ripples outwards. We are wired as a species to give, the giving nature that allowed us to survive collectively. Random acts of kindness, random acts of saying hello to strangers, choosing not to judge someone when every instinct inside of you tells you to. That is giving and is one of the most powerful things you can do on the planet running collective fear right now, because now you're demonstrating consciousness. Your anxiety at work is real. I'm not dismissing it, but if you have had it at every job, with every boss, in every situation, the cause is not out there. It's in here. You caught a current that's running through the entire planet right now. The good news is what you caught, you can release. If you found this helpful, please subscribe, because we are just getting started. We are not here to avoid pressure. We are here to turn it into power. We are building strength. we are turning snowflakes into diamonds.